Hi, Paul Thompson here. I wondered what would happen if I wanted to use hammers as a kind of supercharged rocky trailer kit. And so I've done this kind of rocky, backbeaty kind of trailer piece, just knocked something quick together just to demonstrate this as proof of concept, to see how it sounds if you want to use it more like a drum kit type of thing. So I'm going to play this through and then we'll dive into a couple of bits and I'll show you what I've done, and hopefully there'll be some useful stuff in there for you. Okay, so fairly shameless, but just a bit of fun. So what have we got going on? Well, let's look from the top down. There's a couple of bits of a woodwind in there, but there can kind of tend to be more sort of accenting things, like in this section here. And then we've got a couple of things in the building section at the end, which I could just solo those. Oops. So you get the idea. Super simple, but they're just filling out some of that stuff. Now the legato part here. Again, it's pretty obvious, straightforward stuff. There's a the kind of harmony part to the main meat of the tune, and a few little runs and things scattered around. What am I using for the main part of the tune? Right, well, let's solo everything that is kind of related to that, and you can hear it all together. Sounds like this. Okay, pretty straightforward. What's happening here in the second section? These ones carry on, but these ones play a kind of counter melody. The lower brass are all doing these kind of stabby parts. Let's put in the marcatos actually as well. So we've got this kind of thing going on here. Okay, pretty ham-fistedly played, but there we go. Okay, so that's the brass. They all kind of do the same kind of thing pretty much all the way through. We've got these strings, so I'm using a couple of different things. So I've got some ensemble shorts from the Symphonics, and also I'm using the legendary low spiccatos. That sounds like this. So the legendary lows are really adding a good amount of kind of weight and meat to the bottom end, and you really hear it as we get into this section. So again, it's really kind of full tilt. There's no attempt to consider whether this sounds like a real orchestra or anything like that. I'm really just going for maximum kind of impact and, you know, just to kind of make the whole thing leap out of the box. We've got a couple of great synth parts going on. There's these fantastic kind of alarm type things at the end. Now those are actually doubled with the horns as 6. And you'll see I've got a couple of mad things on the horns. In fact, let's look at them now. So if I just solo the horns on their own, let's turn these ones off. So there's two things. The main thing is to give the kind of on the beat kind of repeat going away into the distance, which is the echo boy here. And the second thing is just that I've got this kind of slight tremolo thing, which is just moving the stereo image around. It's not doing anything really drastic. It's just kind of to give it a kind of slightly uneasy, unnerving sort of sensation. On the synths, they are going to just a bit of the old cinematic rooms. Oh yeah, and we've got actually this one's quite a good example. So let's just show this. Without the plugins, it sounds like this. A little bit polite. So we've got two things going on here. We've got this fantastic UAD Ampeg simulation, which adds this. And then we've got our fabulous 1081 again, which kind of counteracts a little bit of the darkening of that and sounds like this. So it's really kind of taking the distorted signal and pulling a bit of the top end back out of it. So it's not quite so kind of muffled sounding, just to bring it back into balance with everything else. What else have we got? We've got this synth down here at the beginning. Now, as you can see, I tried a couple of things and turned them off. And what I was doing, I was programming this stuff at the very beginning, just to get the initial kind of synth idea, the initial kind of guitars and everything else. And it sounded like it needed loads of extra welly at the bottom end, which was why I put the low air on it. But actually, once I'd started filling the track up and got the orchestra going in there, it was clear that that was providing enough low end. And actually, the sound is pretty beefy on its own anyway. So just so you can hear my terrible guitar playing, it sounds like this with the guitars. So guitar's just following the stuff there. Now when we get into the melody section, the guitar's doing something slightly different. I'll put this synth on so you can hear the context. And again, you've got that beautiful kind of little bit of cinematic on that sound, but also now, as you can hear, I've changed the sound slightly there. I've gone from the sound with all the loads and loads of bounce and everything on it, and then I've gone into something that's just a bit more of a straightforward kind of rock sound. I started out with this, miking up the cabinet and recording it through that, but it was a really kind of full sound, and it just didn't quite fit in to the mix. So I ended up dialing in a sound from the Helix, and it's based off one of the presets. If I go over here, I've used, again, a slightly different sound again here. Terrible playing, I know. But actually works really well because you've got all the bouncing and stuff like that. And this is based off one of the presets in the Helix, which is clearly a Steve Vai impersonation. So then the final thing is this final part here. Ah, right, okay, yes. So this is me doubling the melody, attempting to. So I'll put the synth in to save my blushes. Yeah, just kind of wailing and having fun. And what am I doing over here? I think this is probably like, again, a doubling part. Okay, yeah, so this is... Yeah, that's just a kind of question and answer thing. So if I play that with the whole thing going... So you can hear it's just doubling the brass when they're doing that that kind of question and answer thing. So that's it, really. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward thing. Now, just looking at some of the ways that I've treated some of the hammers stuff, and if you watched my previous video, you'll see that I'd got a couple of different reverbs up, and I'm using the CLA drums as well. That's just to add this kind of slightly trashy feel to the right hand side of the scrap part. It just gives it, there's a little bit of reverb in there, but it just kind of brightens it up and makes it a little bit more kind of, what's the word, a little bit more trashy. That's the only word I can think of, really. You'll notice that out of context, this sounds quite out of time. I've tightened it up a tiny, tiny bit. But I did like the feeling that it's kind of just like smashing around the beat and it's kind of loose. The things that are locked in, if I highlight one of these, you'll see that, for example, this Darabuka part is locked in straight on the 16th, or this one, 32s. So when you combine those two, you get the nice bit of feel, but you've got something for it to lock against. So you can see that as you add in more stuff that is really kind of locked down, you get the feel of the scrap part, but it's nice to have that bit of humanity and that bit of kind of pulling it around and it not being too kind of the whole thing being too nailed down. But you have to be slightly cautious about how many parts you do like that, because if you do too much like that, it can end up sounding a bit of a kind of mess. Unless you're a great percussionist, of course, which I'm not. So there we go. What else? I think that's probably it. I'll just have a quick look at the mix page, see if there's anything really interesting going on here. Oh, this is quite interesting. So let's do this with and without. So if I just play that section, solo it. So that saturation that you're getting from this Brainworks plugin really does something beautiful to the sound. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's crazy, crazy good. So I definitely recommend using that on things. Anything else kind of weird? Not really. I've been naughty and stuck a few 224s on things just to show you how that works. Let's do that one. So I'll just solo this part. So that is adding this to the sound. It's kind of taking the existing ambience that's inherent in this mix, but it's also, it's kind of intensifying. It's adding more of the same and with a kind of nice digital harshness that I like that you get from this, this old lexicon. There's nothing else weird going on. Again, we've got the same stuff that I always use at the moment anyway on my mix bus. And what I'll do actually is I'll just play the most full-on bit at the end and I'll switch them back in every 2 bars so you can hear what's going on. So just have a quick listen to this. So you can see that even though I'm really have got everything up to the top, the L2 is not having to do an enormous amount of attenuation just to keep those peaks off, because I've got in my outboard chain, which is my usual tiny smiley face on the API, so 2 dB low and high shelf, and then the SSL, which is giving me probably about 2 to 3 dB of reduction, not a gigantic amount, but it's enough to kind of keep control. And I've got it set on the usual SSL settings, or the kind of standard ones that people seem to like and keep going back to, that are fast attack and release and a ratio of 4:1. And then with a reasonable amount of makeup gain, but it's just to bring it really back up to level. It's not a huge increase in sound if I just show you that once more. So it kind of, you feel it filling up the sound, but it's not like a gigantic leap in volume. The apparent volume increases obviously, but the overall actual level is not increasing massively. And of course, Logic is fairly forgiving if you do start pushing things up into the 0 territory. So you get a little bit of leeway there. But obviously you need to make sure that when you're gain staging, that what's coming out the end obviously isn't going over. So that is that. So I hope there was some useful stuff in there. It's just a different way of kind of looking at hammers, of actually using it like some crazy massive kit. And it's quite cool if I just solo just the kit and play that kind of full-on section at the end. I mean, obviously there's no hi-hat in hammers, but when have you ever let that stop you before? Just use some of that scrap, get it all going, and make this kind of monstrous loping backbeat. I just think it sounds fantastic. Sounds really, really exciting. So there we go. Just a bit of fun. Hope some of that was useful. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.